Hello, welcome to another video, and today I'm finally making a video on my flak, and there is a lot to talk about here, so I'm just gonna jump into the flak cannon. Now, as for naming, it's not original. I couldn't think of a name because it just kind of does a lot of things, so I thought I'd call it flak cannon off of a glass cannon. I'm sure the name's been used before, but I don't really care. So anyway, jumping into the actual build and the important stuff. So, I think it'd be easier to talk about the spec before the gear, so this is a high damage build, which means if you do not have the best gear in the world, non-anointed, whatever, you are going to be doing more damage to make up for that. And if you do have, the best of the best and all the anoints and you're rolling in it, then you're going to just be doing ludicrous amounts of damage, and there isn't an enemy in this game that can actually tank you for very, very long if you're using the right tools for the job. So I'm a huge fan of this flak. Since landing on it, I've had zero desire to move away from it in any circumstance. Bossing, mobbing, raiding, circle of slaughters, rack attack, fade, gamma burst. It really is just a setup that just makes me love flak. You know, before the game launched, I thought, I'm not going to enjoy flak. Well, here I am, and he's one of my favorite characters to play. So, an important keystone is going to be a Megavore, head count, leave no trace. So Megavore allows us to just hit way more crits than we have any right to. Using weapons, like the Conference Call, the Maggie, the Brainstormer is huge for this setup. We're going to be hitting so many more crits that we shouldn't be hitting, which is going to give us way more head count procs, which is going to give us way more leave no trace procs, which means we spend less time reloading, more time killing. Head count, Brainstormer, Megavore will mean that we can, if there's enough enemies, we can recover Fade Away or Gamma Burst in mere seconds. And when it comes to Rack Attack, well, this is extremely overkill. We've always got racks available, which means we've always got on-action skill end available, which is very important for flak. And then the other points in the tree are just kind of supporting big game and most dangerous game, very important, of course, Galactic Shadow. Two Fang. The reason why I don't go Two Fang is personal choice, because we use the Brainstormer a lot, for example, and I like weapons like the Maggie and such. These are high projectile count weapons. Now, Two Fang is not like BL2's Two Fang. So this is a 5-point skill for a 1 in 4 chance to make our Brainstormer go from ×7 to ×8. It's not worth it. Some instances it is, and even though I do use a Cutsman, which would get a lot out of Two Fang, it's not worth it. I prefer consistency over RNG myself, and this is negligible a lot of the time, so that's why I don't run Two Fang there. Now, moving on to Green Tree, we run a Cosmic Stalker class mod, and the Cosmic Stalker allows us to do more damage if we spec Furious Attack over Pack Tactics, which is in Blue Tree. So we've got 4 points in Furious Attack here to give us a nice chunky amount of gun damage, which will then stack up with the Cosmic Stalker class mod. And then moving on to Blue Tree, we get more damage from Persistence Hunter. These two skills are worthless, so they just get us further down the tree. 1 point in He Bites. We've got pet utility in this build. We don't completely ignore the pet, so if you like it there for thematic reasons or aggro relief reasons, the pet's useful because it's proccing Frenzy, which is giving us 40% damage. Then we've got a bit of survivability to get us down the tree, to give us mutated defenses, which really helps keeping our pet alive. We don't need it for Rock and Gamma Burst, but as I say, I use Rack Attack pretty much exclusively personally, so mutated defenses is nice for that, and the aggro relief just of having your pet there is nice. And then it's like a final 2 points in Barbaric Yop, so our pet bonus actually does something, and it's significant. It's 9% damage and then a further 18% gun damage, and that's a reasonable amount. As for pet choice, there's two main ones, of course, Great Horn Skag and Spider Ant Scorcher. Great Horn Skag's probably going to be the best choice 90% of the time. It's going to give you the most damage, even with elemental weapons. The times where you'd want Scorcher is if you just want that little bit of health regeneration. And 1.8% isn't much, but it's always on. And if you run, if you change over to a friend bot, which is useful for, say, Wotan, or tougher fights like that, where you really need your pet to be alive, that bonus will just shoot through the roof. And the health regen will be really significant, especially when you're, putting this 2 or 3% on top of this 2 or 3% on top of, Fade Away recharging or brimming on your shield or whatever you've got. They all stack up, so the passive regen isn't huge, so I'll get into survivability as I move over to gear. Shield doesn't really matter. Run a shield you like. So I just kind of swap between stopgap, recharger, and transformers based on what element I want on my action skill end. I like transformer a lot, so just solid tanky shields will get you a long way. The important thing is the anoint, however. Just take the tankiest shield you have with an on-action skill end, gain bonus elemental damage anoint, and the same goes for your grenade. Now ideally you want to piss, because weakens enemies for 20% extra damage, but again, the important thing here is the 50% elemental damage on action skill end, and if you do not have those, well, look in a vendor. There we go. Don't have an action skill end? Buy this jumping jack longbow here. Didn't get a green. And same goes for shields. Now, shields, a little bit rare. There's more anoints we can get here, so I didn't get one this particular time. But you get the idea, you know? Even if it's not legendary, the anoints are very important because we rely on our damage. Because when you've got a lot of damage in this tree, and then you stack that up with a lot of damage from anoints, and then you multiply that again with your class mod. Cosmic Stalker here. Try and get 3 big game, that's the most important. 3 big game and passives. Secondary skill, Interplanetary Stalker, not as important. Alternative class mods is you can run Rack Pack if you want, slightly less damage though. Bounty Hunter's good for bosses, of course. Friend Bot's just a solid choice if you... needs a lot of York points though for it to be worth it. And then Red Fang if you want to use Gamma Burst. Red Fang, if you want to use Gamma Burst and you're not hot on gear and anoints, you know, the budget version, Red Fang is super important because it will keep you alive because we don't have much in the way of regen. We've got a little bit, so it's there, but Red Fang is important. And then Snowdrift Otto's Idol. Otto's Idol being the important thing here. We've got so much damage. Converting that damage and killing enemies into health regen is important. So the gameplay, the playstyle of this is hyper-aggression. If using Rack Attack, it's hyper-aggression. If we're using Fade Away, you can be a bit, you know, on edge in the middle. And if you're using Gamma Burst, that's when you play reserved, and you can maybe trade out the autos for a Victory Rush, but I just like the autos. And then prefixes is whatever you want. Snowdrift, Last Stand. Last Stand autos is fantastic. So there's a good one there. But the autos part is important. As for guns, take what you can get really, same as any build. You want guns with good anoints on action skill end. So here's a boss damage conference call. Here's an action skill end dictator, Queen's Call there. Mashes are good. Maggies are better mashes. Now, not super important, but nice to have on occasion, especially during the Wotan fight. Having a good lifesteal weapon is very valuable, because we can spam our action skill like no other. So having this lifesteal Maggie has saved my life more than a few times. Doesn't have to be a Maggie, I just like the Maggie because quick swat speed, quick reload, high range, just a dependable weapon. Redistributor, I've not had great results with on Flak, definitely a Zane gun. Cutsman, you'll never go wrong with a Cutsman for boss damage, we annihilate any big health bar with these things. The Rack Slag Anoint is more powerful than the 100% action skill end anoint, just the way it's calculated. It's just, of course, you have to have your rack hit the target. So do try and focus this anoint for single target weapons, and those targets will die very quickly. For Brainstormer, Brainstormer is a keystone. Very, very, very important. Not 100% necessary, but it will make night and day difference, even if it's not anointed. I'll try and find my non-anointed one, and get some gameplay of that. If it's not in this video, I'm sorry, but just get a Brainstormer. Now, ideally you want high damage, low mag size, because we've got Leave No Trace. That is ammo regen that is not dependent on our mag size, so we just go all out on damage, as high damage as possible. So it's getting multiplied more by all of our anoints and damage skills and and everything. Damage. That's the idea behind this build. Furbit's a fun, cool weapon. One-shots adds, kind of awkward to use though. Conference Call's great against larger targets. Nukem and Lump. Painfully easy to get as a Nukem and painfully overpowered. On stream, I just did a Slaughter Shaft run with nothing but a Nukem, and it was a walk in the park. So you can get that from Loco Chantel, if that strikes your fancy. Of course, you can't go wrong with a leader. But yeah, my main loadout kind of looks something like this. Here we go. So that's going to be like a dependable loadout. No, I want Rack Slag Maggie. There we go. Action Skill and Brainstormer, Rack Slag Maggie, and then Cutsman's or whatever. Maybe throw the Lifesteal one in there. But I've been rocking these challenge runs, so I've been using Dictators and whatnots and Conference Calls. They've been great. I love Conference Call. So yeah, that's the gear. In terms of playstyle, if we're going no anoints or low gear, we're gonna go Red Fang, and then we're gonna go Gamma Burst. I use Atomic Aura just for Frenzy, probably not needed. Yeah, that. Hang on. There we go. That's probably a bit better. Since we've already got Heat Bites, we actually don't need Atomic Aura. So we've got Empathic Rage there for some more damage, and we've got Endurance here just to increase the duration of our Gamma Burst. And then, of course, when it's running out, we swap over to our Brainstormer, and Megavore head count will get it right back for us, since it is our lifeblood when we're, you know, not so great, not so well geared. Fade Away, we're spoiled for choice here. The thing is with Fade Augments, is 3-shot 8, Fade is just better. Gorillas in the Mist is rubbish. It's not good. It's really not good. Not My Circus is, you know, fun, pet taunt, but it's not game-changing to the Fade Away aspect. Until You're Dead, same thing. It's great, it's nice to have, but it's not game-changing to the Fade Away aspect. Having Fade Away itself already puts us in a safer position than Rack Attack, so not necessary. And then there's Unblinking Eye, which is actually really good, but the amount of commitment, if we were to pick up Unblinking Eye, our build overall would just be worse. So we don't go Unblinking Eye, unfortunately. Maybe with some more points. As for Burst Aid, now not having Burst Aid is actually not the end of the world, because when you summon your pet, you gotta summon it close to enemies. So even with Red Fang, Red Fang's not a surefire way to never get aggro. If an enemy deems it easier to shoot you, even with Red Fang, they'll shoot you. If you are close, which you have to be to get anything out of Burst Aid. So it's not the end of the world not having this. In fact, it can lull you into making, you know, dumb mistakes and overextending. Just play back when you're running Gamma Burst. Just play back a little bit and you'll be safer, especially since if you've got less gear, it's the easier of the setups to get into and start doing well. It's the easiest raid, slowest raid, but the easiest raid I would say is the Gamma Burst setup. I'm not a huge fan of it myself, but it's a very solid build. And then Fade Away if that's your thing, and then of course Rack Attack if you just want to hold W and delete everything, which is my favorite way of playing. So with that, I'm going to do a raid run as I swap between the 3 different action skills. Yeah, I think if I use this setup in the raid run, what I'll do is I'll use a Rack Slag Brainstormer whilst using Gamma Burst. So just so you can get an idea that it's functionally non-anointed. So you can get an idea of non-anointed Mayhem 4. I just want to get the point across that this is not 100% anointed dependent. Of course, go with anoints. And as I move towards the end of the raid, I'll be using more anointed kit. Just because I don't have things non-anointed anymore. I tend to not keep them. But you get the idea. It's a great build. I hope you enjoy the gameplay, and I hope you enjoy the build. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Down to the lower levels. Make your way there and be ready for some heavy resistance. I'm counting on you, Vault Hunter. What the hell? Vault Hunters! Will they find us?
Get angry, boy! Have fun, Rock. Remember! I like you better. Outrun.
Those were advanced mechs, but we're after something bigger. Keep going.
Nobody does. Some days you hunt, some days you are. Pocket rats! Weak! All of you are weak! You there, how are your last friends? Distract them! Too weak to survive.
Now that is definitely your target! Light that giant bastard up!
worth it just to kill you.